Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for coming to the Penn Professional Staff Assembly seminar on safe travel in and around Penn. We saw this as being a rather important topic to bring to the community because the South Street Bridge is going to be opening on November 6th. And with that, we expect that the flows of traffic, vehicle, pedestrian, and bike traffic are going to basically change a little bit because a lot of the traffic has been concentrated on Walnut Street, Chestnut Street, and minimally on Spruce Street. But with the bridge opening up, Spruce Street should become another main thoroughfare through campus. So given that we wanted to make sure that everyone was mindful of some of the issues that we as police, the Department of Parking and Transportation, also Fire and Emergency Safety from, again, the Division of Public Safety and the Bicycle Coalition. So the people we have here are initially Breen Goodwin, who is the educator and director for the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, John Gustafson, who works with Parking and Transportation, and Mr. John Cook, who is with the Division of Fire and Emergency Safety here at Public Safety. One of the things that I wanted to try and go over were some of the stats that we have just in terms of some of the vehicular issues in and around campus, and what we have been trying to do as the Department of Public Safety is really try and enforce just the entire aspect of traffic and pedestrian safety in and around campus in addition to bike safety. We usually have a number of vehicle accidents on a monthly basis on campus. A number of those vehicle accidents involve bikers and they also involve pedestrians. So for us, safety in terms of traffic enforcement is a major issue. Last month we had, just in terms of the 3 shifts that are working for the Department of Public Safety, we had 49 vehicle accidents on campus. The 2 previous months we had 32 and 36. And as we move into the academic year, we typically have more and more vehicle accidents as opposed to what we would have in the summer months. So given that, in addition to the fact that it's a major issue for us in terms of enforcing traffic, it's also a major issue in terms of the harm that comes to people who are either biking, walking, or even in vehicles. So we thought it was really important for us to try and put this forth. One of the other aspects of our traffic enforcement is being mindful of the traffic lanes in and around campus. And one of the ways that we enforce that is through making sure that we don't have double parkers, we don't have people who are parking in bike lanes, and trying to just open up some of the avenues for bikers as well as pedestrians. In addition to the issue of bikers on campus, we also have a major issue with bike theft. So given that that's one of the issues that we deal with in terms of public safety, we wanted to make sure that that was available to you as well in terms of some of the things we're dealing with. Last month we had 16 bike thefts, in August we had 10, and in July we had 9. So it just reflects what happens once the student population comes back. And of course, when the student population comes back with their bikes, those persons who are taking the bikes also come back. And it's kind of a balance in terms of what's going on. But we try and redirect some of the negative aspects that are happening with that. In addition to that, of course, with our enforcement, we increase our what we call TVRs, which is traffic violation reports, citations, and things of that nature. So I don't want to overly burden you with all that. And initially, I guess, one of the aspects we're trying to really kind of bring forth is the bike aspect on campus. So I'm going to open that up to Breen, who has been a major advocate for bike safety and bicyclists in the city of Philadelphia, and she'll, I'm sure, give you some ideas about what's going on with that.
Good morning, or good afternoon. Good afternoon now. Just a quick question for everyone. Who rides a bike? All right, thank you, in back. Yeah, I saw the helmet come in the door. Who walks? Who defines himself someone as a pedestrian? Okay, and who defines himself as a motorist? And how about transit? Okay, great. Cycling is becoming, the mode shift is really kind of going towards cyclists, where we're increasing every year with how many cyclists are on the road. With that, we're also increasing in confusion. What is the role of a cyclist on the road? What are their rights? What are their responsibilities? And that's something that I'm always trying to help with. I'm always trying to address. And we do that through a program called our Bicycle Ambassadors. It's a seasonal program where we go out into the community and educate and encourage folks to ride more often and ride more safely. University City and Center City have the highest incidence of crash rate in Philadelphia. Probably not a very big surprise. University City has a huge amount of cyclists, and most of them are very young. Not the majority, but, or excuse me, not all, but it's certainly the majority are very young. And we were actually just talking before how we're always trying to re-educate that new population who's coming in. A bicycle is a legal vehicle. Not a lot of cyclists know that, and surprisingly not a lot of motorists know that either. In Philadelphia, cyclists are required to ride on the road. Yes, I know there are cyclists on the sidewalk. That is definitely an issue. What I'm really excited about in University City specifically is with the opening of the South Street Bridge, which is the highest traveled bridge in the state of Pennsylvania for bicyclists. How many knew that? Anyone? It's an enormous amount of cyclists who come across the South Street Bridge as of October 2008. When the South Street Bridge closed, it forced all of that traffic to go either over Grace Ferry, which, if you've ever driven over Grace Ferry, imagine riding your bike over Grace Ferry. It's frightening. It really is. You can do it, but it's frightening. Or onto Chestnut and Walnut. Chestnut is another very challenging street because of the on and off ramps to 76. So what we saw is a lot of cyclists were choosing to ride on the sidewalk on Walnut. Time and time again, we are out there with our education effort. It is really, really challenging when a sidewalk is already packed with pedestrians, and then to also add cyclists on there, not really a good combination. So with the opening of the South Street Bridge, we really anticipate that is going to be alleviated. Not totally eliminated, but it will certainly be alleviated. I know personally it will change my commute once the South Street Bridge opens. The South Street Bridge will now have bike lanes. It will now have advanced stop bars. And so if you have a stop bar for a car, and here's your bike lane, the bike lane is going to have an advanced stop bar, which then allows motorists to see that there's a cyclist there. That's a great safety addition for cyclists. There's going to be a whole litany of other things. Sidewalks are going to be widened. It's going to be a beautiful new bridge. We're really, really excited at the Bicycle Coalition. We anticipate that there's probably going to be more cyclists on it than there was before because it will be such a beautiful facility. Back to theft. Theft is certainly a major issue. We are #1 in the United States for bike theft, the city of Philadelphia. It's not something that we are terribly proud of, but it is something to recognize that it is an issue, and it's even more of an issue on a college campus because a lot of folks are coming from maybe places where they haven't had to deal with theft before. We do have a quick, I brought some educational material, do have a quick lesson on how to lock your bike here, what kind of tools to use to lock your bike, and Penn Public Safety also has a great program where you can register your bike. So in the event that it is what I like to call borrowed, that if it is recovered, they'll be able to find the owner. I know you guys frequently have a whole bunch of bikes that you just can't identify who the owner is, so they can't be returned. So if you are riding on campus, or if you know people who are riding on campus, please encourage them to register their bikes, because when they are borrowed, we really like to get them back to their owners if they are recovered. And I'll kind of let you continue, and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, one of the things that we always do with each incoming year is really kind of re-emphasize to persons coming to campus, and even those who have been here, that if you're going to have a bike on campus, of course have it registered, which you can also do online at publicsafety.upenn.edu, but more specifically that you should be locking your bikes up with what we call a U-lock. A U-lock can also be compromised, but it's probably the safest thing if you are really trying to keep your bike on campus. It just takes longer to compromise, and you really have to be very adept at that. So if you're going to have a bike on campus that you want to keep and not have borrowed, we would definitely kind of emphasize that you use a U-lock. In addition to that, anything that you would want to do in and around campus on a bike, we'd also ask that if you need any travel routes or any locations where it's best to lock your bike up at. Most of the locations where you have bike racks on campus are basically under what we call CCTV, which is a camera that is directly connected to the Penn Police Dispatch Office. So we have people within our office who are looking periodically at all the different bike racks that are under the CCTV purview. And then that kind of gives an additional level of safety to those locations. So if you are locking your bike up, again, you lock in addition to bike racks on campus, and not locations where you might have a handicap ramp or some location that really is unlawful to lock your bike up. So we really hope you would do that as well. As we move from riding bikes, we are lucky enough to have the Department of not public safety, but parking and transportation, and the various services they have here. So I would have to just leave that open to John. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I guess first question I'm going to ask is, who knows about Penn Transit Services currently? I figured Glenn did. So basically the university has a series of shuttle vans, buses that operate around campus, mostly in the evenings. The majority of our services operate from 5 p.m. until 3 a.m. 7 days a week. We have the Penn bus service, which is, and they're all in the brochure, unfortunately I don't have everybody grab one. They're a series of fixed route buses. They do stops on campus starting at 5 p.m. They do a series of transit stops, which are basically safe indoor waiting areas. They run every 20 minutes. They basically go, one route goes into West Philadelphia, along 42nd Street, Springfield Avenue, 48th Street, and Spruce back to campus. It stops at every major intersection along its route with a traffic light or a stop sign. The last run is 12:40 a.m. We also have a Penn Bus East that goes into Center City. It does the same series of stops on campus. And then it goes across Chestnut to 23rd, 23rd to South Street to 20th, back to Walnut, back to campus. And again, that's bus stops at every major intersection along this route. The bus is free. You must have a valid Penn card with you at the time of service to use it. And that operates again Monday through Friday. We have Penn shuttle services, which are a series of shuttle vans that operate around campus from 6 p.m. until 3 a.m. Again, stopping at individual stops on campus. And then they go to any address in West Philadelphia as far west as 50th Street, between Market Street and Woodland Avenue. They also, if you called 2158 and any ride and requested a ride, would bring you back to campus in the evenings. They run 7 days a week. We have shuttles that run into Center City starting at 1 a.m. Monday through Friday after the Penn bus ends, and from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. Saturdays and Sundays that go as far east as 20th Street between Market and South Street. Again, these are all free services. You must have your Penn card to use them. We have an accessible transit service during basically Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. until 3 a.m. for those with permanent or temporary disabilities. We work in conjunction with the Offices of Affirmative Action or Student Disabilities, depending on your university affiliation. And the main basic crux of those services are picking up students, faculty, staff, bringing them getting them around campus during the day to get from different meetings to different classes, things of that nature. Again, that's another free service. We also are in a partnership with the University City District for Lucy. Lucy is the bus that operates from 30th Street Station to and from campus during the day. It starts at 6 a.m., goes through till 7:10 p.m. or 7 o'clock p.m. Monday through Friday. With a valid Penn card, you can actually use that service also. It is free. We do other services such as charter services for student groups, faculty, staff who are doing field trips, things like that. They must have a university affiliation to use that service. That is a for-charge service, but we have buses up to 48 passengers. Also, I'm going to throw, the university has walking escort services that operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 215-898-WALK. If you wanted to go to a regular bus stop in the evening, subway stop, to walk to your car that's parked, great service that's there to get you to where your destination safely. If you go to things like bus stops or our transit stops with them, they'll actually wait for you at the stop until a vehicle comes to pick you up. There's a lot of information about our services. We have a variety of services. I'm not going to try and throw them all at you today because it would be just too confusing, but I will ask everybody to grab a brochure. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to basically help you out in the end. And that's basically general information about our services.
Thank you very much. One thing just to piggyback off the walking escort service, for those of you who haven't utilized this service, it is something that's connected with the Penn Police Department and also the Division of Public Safety, in that the person who's coming to walk you from one location to another is an allied security officer. So the person is in uniform, again, has the appearance of the Division of Public Safety, and it's probably one of the more safer ways to get in and around campus if you're in need of just going from one location to another during the hours that, you may be needing travel, either to public transportation or to your car. So we would really emphasize you using that as well. One of the things that one of the many things that Mr. Cook does is he provides driver, or has provided driver training for different people here on campus. I asked him to come just to kind of make sure if there were any questions involving driving in and around campus, or how you would go about getting on your driver's license, that he would be here. I'm not sure if he would be able to support his efforts right now. But
we can talk about some of those things. Obviously, I should mention to you that if you operate a motor vehicle, a university-owned or rental lease vehicle, you should undergo the driver training program that the university offers. That is very, very important. I'm going to just mention a few other things to you. I think that is important because whether you're a pedestrian, a cyclist, or operate a motor vehicle, I think we all have equal responsibility in terms of making the highway safe for those persons that traverse the in and around the campus area. In this last year, 2 years ago, 2008, in this country, there was in excess of 39,000 deaths attributed to motor vehicle accidents. Speeding probably is a leading cause of accidents and deaths in motor vehicle accidents. Speeding is something that you always have to be concerned about. Even in a crowded, congested area like the University of Pennsylvania, people still speed. In spite of posted signage and things of that nature, law enforcement, we still have a number of persons that are injured as a result of a person operating a vehicle in a careless manner. Pedestrian traffic accidents accounted for in excess of 5,000 deaths by pedestrians being struck by motor vehicles, and the number of injuries is in excess of 75,000. So motor vehicle accidents are a major cause of injuries to persons in and around this country, and we have to be concerned about that. The dollar amount that has been associated with these types of accidents is in excess of $40 billion. Now that includes a lot of things. Vehicles, obviously, repairs, salaries if a person loses time at work, injury recovery, and things of that nature. So it's a tremendous expense also in terms of, as a result of accidents and how these accidents are caused. One of the things I think that is very important today is distractions. When we think of distractions as it relates to accidents, we often think of the persons operating a motor vehicle on a cell phone, using various types of electronic devices and things of that nature, not the radio, not really paying attention to the main focus, and that is to operate the motor vehicle in a safe manner. But pedestrians as well have a responsibility in terms of being safe. In and around the campus, I see people many times walking down the street reading or using other type of electronic devices and things of that nature. And I think we all have to share in responsibly in terms of trying to prevent these things from taking our attention, so that we don't lose focus on our main purpose, and that is to be safe at all times, whether we're a pedestrian, whether we're operating a motor vehicle, or what have you. But distractions is a major cause of accidents, and we need to be very much aware of that. I'd like to also just mention a few other causes of accidents that we all have to be concerned about. I mentioned to you speed a moment ago. And many times a person, whether you're riding a bike or whether you're operating a motor vehicle or a pedestrian, we think that each of us think that we have the right of way. And there is no right of way. Everybody has equal responsibility, and whether you're operating a motor vehicle or pedestrian, I think you have to, you don't necessarily have the right of way, but you have to be concerned about your safety and other persons around you. Failing to yield many times is a major cause of accidents. Total disregard to traffic signals, whether it's a green light or red light, people just totally disregard. They do what they want to, and consequently many times the results is not very, can be very harmful to the person. Not paying attention to stop signs, improper turns, and things of that nature. There are a lot of things I think that we all have to be concerned about in terms of providing safety for ourselves. And I strongly suggest that if you're out here, that you also be very mindful that in this area, the traffic congestion and the volume of traffic in this area is something that you just can't, you have to take in consideration at all times, because again, it's your safety that's really important, and you have to be mindful of the fact that in this area there's heavy concentration of traffic at all times.
Okay. One of the things that, for those of you who are here in the mornings or particularly throughout the day, that we try and make available to all the persons who are crossing major intersections is that you'll find between 8 and 9 in the morning at 34th and Walnut, 34th and Spruce, and 36th and Walnut, we do have a traffic officer at those locations, because years ago we have had a number of people who were hit just crossing the street. Some really, really bad accidents have happened. One that I'm aware of, to a student who was in a coma for quite a while after being struck just crossing the street. And a lot of the times it's just a matter of, again, the distraction, just a matter of rushing from one location to another and not being mindful of the fact that you're crossing the street, and the traffic flows are so inconsistent, but also being, absolutely aware of the fact that when you are crossing the street, not only vehicles but bikes as well. We've had people who've been hit by bikes because people are looking in different directions when bikes are crossing the street as well. So it's really important, again, not just for general safety, but for the safety of persons who are in vehicles, on vehicles, or also just walking. So we want to make sure that that's really something that if you are crossing one of those intersections during those times, that you're mindful of adhering to what the officer is trying to do in terms of the flow of traffic, pedestrian and vehicle traffic. At this point in time, we're going to basically open up any questions. Waiting obviously with bated breath there. Thank you. Come on.
I want to know what you said, that there was an effort to educate bikers, what that entailed exactly. Is there a listserv? And the obvious thing that I'm thinking of is when somebody registers their bike, they need to receive and read and sign as though you were getting a driver's license. The rules of operating a bike on campus. I personally been hit by a bicycle. It was on Chestnut Street at 37th when they completely disregard the traffic. I was crossing on green. Biker had the red, they were going with the flow of traffic, but through a red light, basically. And that's happened to me. I only hit once, but at least once a week I'm buzzed by somebody who's ignoring that. I'm going through a red light. That's pretty bad. So it's a concern of mine, and I want to know specifically what efforts are being made, and I want to suggest that anybody who's registered their bicycle, is even more accountable and has to sign something that they are aware of those rules.
Okay, with our bike registration effort, one of the things that we, of course, try and enforce is, for one, your own personal safety as well as others' personal safety. We have basically instituted initially from the beginning of the school year. The school year kind of is one of our major focuses when the school year starts, because the influx of people coming into the campus area is just so major. At the beginning of the school year, we had a major effort in terms of vehicular traffic and also bike safety on campus. We had 3 different locations where we thought that it was very important to have stations set up to let people know, okay, not only about the different aspects of bike safety, but also about vehicle safety. So we did that at least 4 or 5 times from the beginning of the school year up through, I guess, mid or the end of September and beginning of October. One of the locations was 34th and Walnut, another on campus at Locust Street, and also at 36th and Walnut. So a couple of those locations we worked hand in hand with the Bike Coalition to give out information, but also to let folks know that we're here partly to enforce, but also to educate.
I'd like an officer on a bicycle to be stationed at 37th and Chestnut Street, just in a yellow jacket, and take down license plates. I know that's a funny thing to say, but ID, just count, just to count how many infractions there are.
What we try and really do in terms of vehicle safety is we do have officers who are in vehicles and also sometimes on motorcycles who are enforcing traffic safety with the number of motor vehicles that are in there. We, given the number of vehicles coming through, we really, I think, are doing a pretty decent job with enforcement. Some of the numbers that we have just in terms of, again, the traffic violations we write per month. In September we wrote 71 violations.
On bicycles?
No, on vehicles.
I'm talking about bicycles.
Oh, okay. On bicycles themselves, that's Again, because, and this is one of the things we were talking about, Breen and I were talking about, is the fact that each year we get a whole new slew of students and international students who are coming here. So what we kind of see our efforts really kind of impacting more so is to educate the numbers as opposed to always enforcing, because we can just write numbers in terms of violations. But a lot of the times it's really more important for us to stop a person, educate them, and give them, a full understanding of the fact that it's more important for you to be safe and wise, and these are the laws, as opposed to writing violations. We could bring a really heavy hand, because as you well know, the numbers are pretty large in terms of not only bikers but also vehicles.
Right. So I'm sorry to monopolize this session.
It's okay.
But methods for educating. I'm curious to know how you're doing that.
For us, again, it's a matter of, we have station officers at different locations on campus. At the beginning of the school year, we continually do that, either by stopping, some of the pedestrians, or not pedestrians, but some of the bikers. We do write citations on bikers. Last month, we wrote 5 citations, which, for us is kind of a new thing to beginning, to write a citation on a biker, but we have done that. And, I think mostly what you'll probably see from us is stops with education as opposed to stops with citations. And that's kind of where we're kind of focusing our efforts at this point in time.
And if I could add something to what you're saying, this year one of the other things that we did with we set up information tables at every residential building on the campus during the month of September, and part of that we had someone there registering those persons with bicycles in the building, and also giving out information, literature about bicycle safety. So and this was done at all of the university, all of the residential buildings on campus, as I said. So I think we reached a lot of people by with that program.
That's good. I think there needs to be more accountability.
Yeah, one of the things we have to realize is,
I agree. I'm sorry that you were struck, and I'll speak for all cyclists who are out there who obey the rules. I'm sorry you were struck. It's a cultural shift that we're trying to create right now. A lot of people don't know who are on bikes that they're legal vehicles. Our Bicycle Ambassadors program, which works from May to September, we're currently trying to find more funding. We had 2 full seasons. We're currently trying to find more funding. We're out at farmers markets. We're on Penn's campus, and we're trying to talk to people really about not only what their rights are, because knowing your rights is very empowering, but more importantly, what your responsibilities are. That you are a legal vehicle, that pedestrians do have the right of way, that you do need to wait for the signal to change. You shouldn't blow through things. That what we're really trying to do is start from, here are your rights, and if you want these rights, here are your responsibilities. So I'm going to speak again for all cyclists out there who do obey the rules of the road, and I'm sorry. It is something that I take very seriously, and it's something that is going to take time, and it's going to take effort, and it's going to take resources. And we have partnered with Penn Police a few times, and it's been, I think, a great partnership, and it continues to grow, where we work with them and we help. We don't necessarily stop. You guys are the enforcement, we're the education. It's kind of, we're walking a fine line with that, where we really get out there and we're like, hey, we love that you're riding. Here's how you can do it more safely, and here's how you can keep doing it. Otherwise, you're going to get a ticket. So I'm sorry, but I know that Penn Police takes it very seriously as well. And right now, I think it's a balance of resources, of addressing a lot of the other issues that are out there too. But they're doing a great job educating as well. And one of the really challenging things that I've found through adult education is that if you come down with a heavy hand real quickly, it's going to get worse versus coming in with the educational model. And then Penn Police, you guys start to recognize when you have kind of the turkeys out there, and I call them the turkeys, that are always the ones who are blowing the lights and things like that. And I think that's when you guys really start to step in and say, hey, this isn't acceptable.
And one of the strangely kind of fortunate and unfortunate things is that we do have a large number of people traversing this area, and they're not always students. A lot of people who are living west of the campus, they're beaming through here because they know if you're driving through here, if you catch the light that's green at 63rd Street, and you're going a certain mile per hour, you can get downtown, you know, just without, I've done it myself. You know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna be real lucky, 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, whatever it is. You can go all the way, you know, downtown from 63rd Street if you catch all the green lights. So, you know, given the traffic flows, and I'm sure, you know, bikers know that as well, it's just the easiest route back and forth downtown. And, you know, we would like to be able to educate the entire city, but, you know, strangely enough, our culture is a vehicle culture as opposed to being a bike culture, and to make the move to a bike culture is going to be not only an attitude change, but like a consciousness change, you know, for not just students, but for, you know, people in the city. So if we can do that with the whole city, we would. You know, we're trying to start in our small world right now.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there with her help.
Step by step.
Yes.
I was hit by a biker getting off of Lucy.
I am sorry too.
that is a tough, that bus is
Yeah.
tough.
38th and Spruce.
Yeah.
And the Lucy had pulled close to the curb.
Yeah.
And I was still hit because somebody was trying to squeeze
Yeah.
through. I think, you know, is there a way to work with SEPTA too? Because some of the SEPTA bus drivers look like they hit it out for the bikers. I feel sorry for them.
No.
Because sometimes I ride up and I'll park out in West Philadelphia and ride the bus down Spruce Street, and there's a lot of bikers on Spruce Street. I've been bussed several times at 37th and Spruce, going to catch the subway service home at night. But yeah, are you working with SEPTA at all?
Yes, we are every year. What we would really like to see is a much more systemic education effort happening. SEPTA bus drivers are required to curb. That doesn't happen all of the time. Sometimes navigating around a bus is very challenging on a bike because they can hurt you very badly and not even know. A lot of times what happens in a scenario that you're talking about is a bike is behind and there's no turn signal that comes from the bus, and they all of a sudden curb, and they literally merge you in. They merge you into the curb. I've hit numerous buses who have merged me into the curb, and usually the riders on the bus will yell to the driver, like, you're squeezing out a bike there. What I usually do with my education efforts with especially new riders is I tell them if they're just matching perfectly up with the bus every single stop, is I'll tell them to pull over to the side and wait for a minute. Literally, wait for 30 seconds. And then they're going to eliminate that constant issue. Because if you try and pass and then the bus comes again, and then you try and pass and the bus comes again, sometimes you can pass on the right, a lot of times you can't pass on the right, you're supposed to pass on the left, but if they don't curb, you're moving out into pretty high moving traffic or high speed traffic. So it's really a challenge that, again, it's part of a cultural shift of recognizing that bikes should be on the road. And part of the reason bikes aren't on the road sometimes is that they're scared to death. They see that the sidewalk is safer. In actuality, it is not, but they see that it is safer. And there's so many different issues with buses, with large vehicles. I know you've already addressed with vehicles in bike lanes. There's a lot of different issues that are happening right now, but buses are one that I'm personally quite scared of. I'm actually more scared of buses and pedestrians than I am of motor vehicles. Yeah.
I can see both sides. I mean, I guess I totally, you know, I saw Penn police person standing on the corner trying to stopping every person who was riding their bike on the sidewalk going, hey, you're not supposed to be on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I think that's a marvelous thing. And I've also had it where I'm riding my bike up Walnut Street, and the pedestrians see the cars have finished crossing, and they start to walk, and I go, and I actually have said, like, I have to just educate them. Yo, I still have green light here.
Yeah.
Because they're walking.
Yeah.
Like a large amount of them, and I'm speeding, not speeding,
Yeah.
I don't go more than about 35.
Right.
I'm an extra slow rider, and I slow down at every intersection, even when it's, you know, just in case. And I'm telling you, they are walking without looking. There are bicyclists coming at them.
Yeah. Going back to the bus issue, I think it's an education effort on both the cyclist side of things, because sometimes we cannot control being merged into because we don't know that the bus is coming over. That it's also an education thing, that it is an active lane of travel, not only for the SEPTA bus drivers, but also for the folks who are on the bus. If a bus does not curb, Gosh, I would love to also see an education effort for the safety of the pedestrians. I'm not saying that bikes shouldn't be yielding, but for the safety of the pedestrians, to make sure that you're just looking before you step out. That there are other things besides bikes that can also come by. You know, it is a cyclist's responsibility to kind of recognize what's happening in front of them, but sometimes it happens so quickly that it is very frightening. Actually, when I ride on transit, which I do frequently, I have to remind myself, and I'm the education director of the Bicycle Coalition, that if the bus doesn't curve, I need to make sure to look that there's not a bike. And if I have to remind myself of that, that's a challenge for the safety of everyone.
And when they stop in the street, I usually look.
Yeah.
I look, but this one day he pulled over, and for some reason I did not look like I usually do.
Were you far from the curb then, or
No, I could step from the bus to
the curb?
Yeah, he was scared.
Wow.
I could step literally from the bus.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't the driver's issue, it was the biker's issue. Yeah, that's
Varies. I know somebody was getting off the trolley in a car, trying to pass on the right, and ran over the person's foot.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you just, I mean, I'm a biker and a driver, so I say to myself, you know,
What are they
I
thinking?
can wait.
You know,
Yeah.
where's the
I'm
common
often
sense?
sitting behind the bus on my
Yeah.
bike or in my car, and I say, no, I could wait a minute.
Yeah.
People are like,
I
for some
I
reason
think
they
that that's a
can't
very
wait.
important point is patience.
Yeah.
That I see that our transportation infrastructure is very me-centric. How am I going to get there faster? How am I going to cross the street versus being a part of really one part of a larger whole going, gosh, I shouldn't do this because it might have an effect down the line.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that we think of that first. And I think that causes a lot of these just, what were you thinking kind of moments, not only with pedestrians who are just crossing mid-block and don't look for a bike, but a cyclist who blows through a stop sign without even looking. I mean, there's so many different examples of the what were you thinking, that sometimes it just goes back to common sense, and I'm not sure we're all utilizing that to our highest potential.
Patience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
Patience.
I was
Yeah.
about to say,
Patience
you know,
helps.
what Mr. Cook brought up in terms of, you know, all the different distractions. And we really have to be totally cognizant of the fact that no matter what, there's still a large number of just students here. You know, and if they're, you know, going to class back and forth and they're jabbering, you know, between each other or listening to whatever they are listening to on, you know, in their headphones, they're not thinking I need to look to see to the left of what's coming because I'm headed where I'm headed, you know, and I'm 18 or I'm 19 and, you know, and everything is the direction I'm going and not in some other direction. So it almost, when you were speaking, I almost said to myself, this sounds like you should be a defensive biker in the same manner you should be a defensive driver. And, you know, even for me, it was a transition that took me like 35 years to kind of, you know, get that in my head and said, you know what, I really need to be watching out for these other people as opposed to watching where I'm going, because it's quite possible that, you know, I can avoid, you know, if you've had one or two accidents, you will realize you want to avoid them as opposed to, you know, not being mindful of them.
You know, it goes back to, I've got a 10-year-old, I'm teaching her to look around the corner.
Yeah.
Because when you're crossing even the tiniest little street, you never
Yeah.
know what's coming down that
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
And you need to be looking in every single possible, there's like 4 directions where people could be coming at you. And
Yeah.
I said, especially when you're short, you know, now that she's 10, she's taller, but I said, when they're not gonna see you,
Yeah.
you know, over their bumper.
That's true. You know what,
need to be really careful.
when I think one of the strangest things that's so Philadelphian is to see a person standing on the curb and step in the street for no reason, just as if they're just in the street waiting to cross. You know, not staying on, they'll step in the street to wait to cross as opposed to staying on the curb, which is, I don't know how many other cities have that happen, but I know it's kind of really a cultural thing in Philadelphia because I'm going to do it myself. And I've had, you know, the person I'm with grab me and pull me back. You know, it's like, what are you doing? I'm like, waiting for traffic in the street. No, come back on the sidewalk. You know, but again, it's probably more, you have to just be defensive minded as opposed to, you know, aggressive or assertive in terms of where you're headed.
I had mentioned earlier about the number of deaths caused by pedestrians, or not caused by pedestrians, but that involve pedestrians in the course of a year, and most of them occur at intersections, improperly crossing the street or not paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very important.
Yeah.
Can I actually mention one thing? Who here knows that the city is undergoing phase 2 of the pedestrian and bicycle plan? Okay. This is a great opportunity as a pedestrian and as a cyclist to talk about intersections where there are issues, to really voice your concern for the planning purposes of how the city can be better. I know we have links to it on our website. I don't know what it is right offhand, and I apologize, but I encourage all of you. It takes, I think it's a 15 questionnaire that you can kind of walk through. The phase 2 of the pedestrian bicycle plan is focusing on West Philadelphia and Southwest Philadelphia and Northeast. So it's a perfect opportunity for folks in University City to really say, hey, this bike lane is really bad, or this is a really poor intersection where the curb cuts are always crumbling and I can never cross properly. I highly encourage you to voice your opinions on that because the city, this is the time. This is the time where each one of you can be an advocate for the betterment of University City.
Another question I had is that I've noticed, but I hope it's not, I hope it is intentional, that when I see buildings being renovated, there seems to be larger bike corrals being built near them. Like the Hamilton Village high rises, each of them have a larger bike corral next to them, and that's great. And I realize that you have cameras on them. But I'm wondering about, is there a bigger master plan for buildings that are being renovated that have smaller bike things that might not be in the view of the close camera televisions to sort of make, central bike locations that are safe and monitored?
Yes, in the best of all possible worlds, what we envision as being something that would be ideal for Penn would be to have bike corrals where you could take your bike and even have them enclosed so that there would be a level of safety in addition to a level of coverage for the bikes themselves. One of the things that happened a number of years ago was that there were maybe 1.5 times as many bike racks on campus as there are now. We took a number of them away, kind of consolidated a number of them to make sure they were on their cameras and in central locations. But what you've probably been seeing with the new buildings that are going up is that there is the safety element that has to be added to it, electronically as well as physically. And that was one of the things that's going on with the new buildings is that, okay, if you're going to have a building go up, especially a residential building, you got to have bike racks located in areas that are focused, centralized, but also that are accessible in terms of our CCTV. So with the newer buildings, that's been the plan. The older buildings on campus are the ones that have existed already. What I think has probably happened with them is that they've taken away bike racks and moved them to locations that are more centrally located. So I don't think that there's going to be any major effort at this point in time other than the ideal bike corrals, which is a hopeful kind of situation at this point in time. I'm sure it's all about the money and location, as usual, money and location.
The Office of Sustainability has done a good job as well. My understanding is that they're trying to move some of the bike parking out to more of the peripheral areas of campus so you have less people riding through campus, addressing some of those conflict issues that happen very frequently on campus, I'm sure.
Yeah, and there's always that aesthetic element to it. The architects are going to say, hey, not a bike rack in particular locations, but I'm sure we'll work with that. So.
Christian, and there may not be a great answer to this, but as someone who walks through campus, obviously, and interacts with students a lot in my job, but then also lives on a really bike-heavy Pine Street with double wide bike and everything, it feels like most of the interactions when it's a walker and a bike rider, if they ever do exchange any conversation, it's sort of yelling at one another or I have the right of way or whatever. Is there a particularly maybe more effective way that you can address people about things they're doing without maybe putting them on the defense, but also sort of acknowledging, hey, you're just trying to not have to get off your bike, and so you're just riding back and forth in the crosswalk, making it really challenging to walk through it. I don't know if there's just a more effective way to talk to people casually as just a bystander, or then, having to say, where's the officer so they can come and educate someone and that sort of thing.
Right. If they're really in your way, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. Make it fairly obvious that they're impeding your movement. That's tough. Mm-hmm. We're dealing with that on all the time, trying to figure out how we can address folks in exactly that manner
Yeah.
without them going directly onto the defensive. I don't actually understand very much why people go around in circles. It takes a whole lot of energy to do that. I can't understand it in one regard, and then it doesn't make much sense in the other.
I think it's got to do with, some of them have their feet clipped into the...
Sometimes, and I know I ride clipless frequently as well, and that's not really an issue. A lot of times it's if they're on a fixed gear bike, or I could go into the technicalities of a fixed gear bike, but probably not worth it at the moment. Gosh, I think it's probably just, excuse me, pardon me. Oh, where are you going? Hold on. Wait a minute.
Crosswalk here.
Right.
No, I just feel like it's always this sort of, it's more of like shouting one word or another at each other, and it seems like there should be a nicer way to talk to each other. Just as, you know what I mean? I think everyone usually knows when you're in someone's way, or even when you're just, on your cell phone and not aware of where you are on campus and you're meeting everyone's walking. You know what I mean? I think it's that lack of awareness, but some more polite way to
when I'm in that situation, I'm like, hey guys, right behind you. Whoa there, right behind you, right behind you. Hold on. Kind of almost making it amusing, like,
right, yeah.
Yo, get out of the way, kind of thing. When I teach people to either stop on one side of the crosswalk or on the other side of the crosswalk. A lot of cyclists want to go on the other side of the crosswalk because motorists can then see them. I understand that. Right from the outset, as soon as that light goes green, people are flooring it. And if you're still kind of hiding over here, a lot of times they're gonna hook you. They're gonna go right in front of you. They're not gonna see that you're there. So by stopping on the other side of the crosswalk, that's fine. I always teach people stay out of the crosswalk, though. There's too many people who are moving through there that you really do need to leave that for the pedestrians. That's not bike territory. It's not car territory. One side of the crosswalk or the other, which is why advanced stop bars for bikes are really nice, because it's hopefully it's not going to eliminate it. I'm sorry, I wish it could, but it's hopefully going to reduce some of those incidences of really strange behavior happening.
Yeah, and again, one of the things that I think sometimes we forget is that, people who are in cars have rage against each other, and it's not, making bikers exempt from that same kind of rage that, pedestrians, because if you're walking along and you're carrying the day's load on your shoulders and some biker's coming at you, they're going to catch it, and in turn, I'm sure the biker's going to give, you almost killed me stopping in front of me, so there's kind of, a reality check that we all have to kind of understand, is that stuff happens, especially in the city. Stuff happens in the city because of the numbers, and we just have to, it's almost a kind of a behavioral change process, which, thank God that those of you who are out there who are cool-headed enough to kind of understand this, but not everyone, takes the time to go through the process of, partly educating yourself, but then too, just being aware, which is a big thing.
Staying patient.
Didn't Mr. Cook say that?
Staying patient.
I think I've heard that.
Yes, back to what Mr. Cook said.
The city is going through a cultural shift right now. It really is. And it's going to take another 15 years, another 20 years, I think, to calm some of these transportation issues. But as people are getting out of their cars and starting to take transit, starting to walk more and starting to bike more, we will start to get more engaged in our community. That's the great part about choosing alternative transportation, is that you're not locked in a box. And I drive a car as well, but when you're in a car, everything that happens is behind you. If you do anything wrong, it's behind you very quickly, where if you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, when something goes wrong, you're still kind of right in the thick of it. And I think as more people start to kind of move to alternative forms of transportation, slowly but surely that culture is going to start changing, where the majority of people are going to be considerate. And I actually think the majority of people right now are considerate. But you get those turkeys out there who really kind of ruin it for a lot of folks. So staying patient with people who are breaking the rules, because we're all breaking it. The motorists, the pedestrians, the transit, and the cyclists, we are all breaking the rules. It just stinks when you're at that end of it. Staying patient, moving past it, Bicycle Coalition, we're continually trying to make things better. We just started a youth education program as well. So we have our bicycle ambassadors, and now we're going to be in all public elementary schools with 2nd grade pedestrian education and 5th grade bicycle education. We're launching that program in 2 weeks. So starting with the youth to recognize that a bike is a legal vehicle, or that you should stop and stay when the crosswalk has a red hand. Some things that kind of have to start young and hope that next generation is going to embrace it.
And with that, as I said earlier, one of our major efforts is to educate bikers as opposed to enforcement. People in vehicles, we really have like a no tolerance level because it creates the access problem for bikers as well as pedestrians. So if you see us as police out there enforcing, traffic stops on vehicles, it's because we really kind of expect that people driving in cars should be totally mindful and educated, and obviously have to have, a driver's license to be out there, and they should know the law. Whereas, with bikers, we're really in the effort of educating. And as police, the way we normally see it is that we will educate you to the extent that you make us cite you. So, if you're amenable to the education, we are amenable to giving you education, but if you want us to cite you, we will cite you. That's what we do.
I have a question for John.
Yes.
One, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the green initiatives of the transportation department.
Sure.
I see the new rec buses.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. And the second one might be too premature to ask, but I'm just wondering with the acquisition of the DuPont property and possible use of that facility, if there might be an opportunity to do off-campus parking and just shuttling people down.
I really can't speak to the off-campus parking piece. But yeah, I mean, one of the things we're really into is looking for alternate ways of using our vehicles and fueling our vehicles, more importantly. As of state mandate of May of this year, all of our diesel vehicles now run on a 2% biofuel. We're looking to up that to a 20% as soon as we possibly can for biodiesel. Our 4 new shuttle vans that actually went into service last week are biofuel vehicles. They run on regular 87 grade octane. They can also run on 85 ethanol. But they also run on liquid propane, which is about half the tailpipe emissions of any fossil type fuel. And it's a great initiative. We're getting through a few curves of getting the ability to have that fuel, but we finally secured a solid vendor who can provide it for us. But that was one of the things we're really into, is looking not only at alternate ways of transportation, but alternate ways of fueling the transportation that we have to provide. And it's a big thing. If you'll see that our buses, especially our alternately fueled buses, are now wrapped as part of the Penn Sustainable Partnership Program. And those are alternately fueled vehicles.
Any other questions? No? Okay, it's about 1 o'clock. And initially I'd like to say thank you to all of you who came and brought some really interesting questions, and definitely some things for me to take back to the department to kind of help with the effort of what we're trying to do here. But more importantly, I think it's as important for us all to kind of pass the word on in terms of some of the concerns that you all have to folks who are out there, and hopefully if we pass it forward, it will begin to change the consciousness of the city and maybe even the region. So I'd like to thank everyone here, Mr. Cook, John Gustafson, Green, and even Mr. Ron Ward, who's here as well from Parking and Transportation. Glenn, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.